Watch yourself, I'm going out like a bullet from a gun. I'm burning up hard and right before I leave this place. I'm looking 6 feet down, doing 27 over, and I don't quite give a damn. I was born with lead foot and rust up leather hands. Got a Bible in one and a bottle in the other, and a battle raging in my head. Yeah, I think about slowing it down, but I can sleep when I'm dead. Yeah, the bills pile up and the president gon' give a damn about you or me. The days come and go, whether you're ready or not, so give me sweet release. Ain't just gonna lay down, play by the rules and be just who they want me to be. But someone's gotta give if you really wanna live on the best things in life I feel. I'm looking 6 feet down, doing 27 over, and I don't quite give a damn. I was born with lead foot and roughed up leather hands. Got a Bible in one and a bottle in the other, and a battle raging in my head. Yeah, I think about slowing it down, but I can sleep when I'm dead.
You love Michigan sports. Red Wings, Lions, Tigers, Pistons, Michigan State, and the list goes on. And you love beer. Who doesn't? What if we mixed the two together? This is State of My Sports. We'll talk everything Michigan sports, like only we do, and then we'll down our fair share of beer from a local brewery, grading the beer throughout the episode. So pop a cold one on your end, and we'll get busy on ours. This is the State of My Sports.
And this is episode 181, recording on November 15th, 2022. Win Streak City is what it is. Michigan sports, Detroit, you know. Lions on a 2-game winning streak now. Sparty's on a 2-game winning streak. And obviously Michigan is 10-0, so we got to love that. Talk about all of that. MSU trying to get bowl eligible this upcoming week. And Michigan trying to keep their win streak alive against Illinois. So first time going 10-0 since 2006, which is awesome. We will go around the league in both college football and NFL, and we'll make our picks against the spread in our Betting Hero segment. Of course, we will drink and review some craft beer from the state of Michigan. If you're joining us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, let us know what you're sipping on tonight and be part of the conversation. Let us know about which game you like the most, I guess, this weekend out of the 3 football ones. Before we jump in, I did want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors that help keep this rolling and free for our listeners. The Hops Brewing Company and Cafe is the official brewery of State of My Sports, and bettinghero.com helps us and you get the best promotions available in the sports betting world. I'm Sam Waldhart. With me today, we got John Dornbos back from his birthday week. How you been, man?
Yeah, 1 week off.
1 week off. It was your birthday. I get it.
Yeah, kind of had a jam-packed Tuesday.
How'd it
birthday.
Go? How was the birthday?
Long day of work. Had to go stand in the polls to vote.
Oh, yeah.
And then, had some dinner with a few special people in my life.
Awesome.
And, just another year, man.
Good.
Another lap around the sun. Is that what they call it?
34?
34.
34. Yep.
Lucky number.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Is that what number you were in, like, sports and stuff?
Basketball.
Was it really? I didn't know that. Mine was 33, and this is my 33rd birthday.
Ray Allen.
Yeah,
inspired 34.
Oh, gotcha. Very nice.
It was with the Bucks, I think. Yeah.
So, when your birthday lands on a Tuesday, which one is your birthday weekend? Is it the one prior or the one after?
It was a long week, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say both weekends I took advantage
Both
of
of you.
the birthday falling in between. But this year it definitely leaned heavy on the weekend prior. Yep.
'Cause that was the one that you were at the. No, that was the week prior that you went to the Michigan game.
Yeah, 2 weeks prior. I guess that was kind of my birthday gift to myself, too,
Yeah.
was going to that game. That was a last-minute deal. Ticket opened up. It's still expensive to go, but
Yeah.
it was a good time. It was good to be in the big house again.
Do you hunt?
I do.
Yeah, obviously I knew that. Like deer camp. was
Today
it-
is, yeah.
Did you go out? You
gun
probably didn't
season.
get out. You said it was a busy
Yeah,
day today.
gun season opener. No, unfortunately, just running low on vacation time and
Yeah.
didn't want to go out there during the craziness of opening day. I never really have that much luck anyway.
Yeah.
So one of those deals, the weather, I didn't want to like take the day off ahead of time and have the weather be
Yeah.
bad. I mean, today seemed to be kind of ideal for most hunters. They like a little bit of snowfall that kicks things up sometimes. But yeah, busy at work. So taking advantage of the overtime.
Do you have a scheduled time to go there either for a weekend or? Even
Probably next weekend following
Okay.
the holiday. Yeah.
Usually Michigan and Ohio State weekend.
It's tough, yeah. But usually go up the Friday after Thanksgiving
Okay.
and go hunting with my dad. Kind of a tradition we started when I was pretty young.
Sweet.
So we're gonna shoot for that again. Kind of get caught up at work and hopefully not have any flack for
Yeah,
taking
not have
that
to
day
take
off.
any
Yeah.
time. Yeah, extra time off. Good for you, man. But I mean, really, it's just get into the episode, I guess, right? But let's talk about what we're drinking tonight. We got one to share here, courtesy of Micah and Carrie. Actually, they got this one, Arvon Brewing Company. It is chocolate fountain sour.
Oh boy.
Chocolate sour. So, I actually have this on paper, and I don't have to read the can. Look at me thinking of things ahead of time. So, obviously, from Arvon Brewing Companies in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's on Division Avenue, south side of Grand Rapids. Would you say?
Yeah.
I think
Just
that's
south.
right. Yeah. Very nice piece of location. I love that place. I love hanging out there. No TVs, so I don't usually go there on Saturdays during during sports. But I like to get there quite often. But so this chocolate fountain is a kettle sour with raspberries, blueberries, chocolate, and lactose. They describe it on their website with high notes of tart berry medley and sweet blueberries, supported by the cozy sweetness of marshmallow and chocolate. It's 5% alcohol by volume. I did not. All right, so when I saw her chocolate, I was like, okay, it's going to be a dark, right? Never heard of a chocolate sour. And it's got like I don't know which camera would be best here. I'm going to go with mine maybe. Like that color there is it's red, right? Like I would say that's a red color.
Yeah, definitely like a velvet red.
Yeah, interesting color. Wasn't expecting it until I poured it. But I do want to get my first taste in here. Actually, not bad at all. That's not bad.
They make good sours there.
They do
too,
make
don't
very
they?
good sours. Yes, I love their sours. I didn't know how it would. So this is actually part of their candy harvest. So they do a bunch of specialty like candy version ones during the Halloween time. So that's what that one was from. Man, that's actually really good. I might have to have another sip of that. The rest is yours, man. Pour it into your cup. Man, the second sip is actually better than the first. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but very, very good. Carrie jumped in. She said it's the best, so she's gonna rate that beer right now. She's giving it a 9.1. So she was drinking it this weekend. She was at Arvon. Her and Micah had some friends in town that really wanted to go to Arvon, so that was kind of what they wanted to do. So they brought him there, and yeah, the chocolate sour is interesting. Did you taste it yet? Or are you gonna give
Not
it?
yet.
You're gonna give it some time.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to let us know what you think at the end there. But Carrie, high grade for the chocolate fountain there, sour. So yeah, I can't tell her she's wrong, but I'll give my grade at the end of the episode. Carrie, what are you drinking tonight? That's what we all want to know. Before we jump into episode 181, I want to remind everyone that the Hops Brewing Company and Cafe is currently closed, but they're working towards getting back up and running. They're running into some staffing issues and kind of going through some changes that they're trying to work out. If you're interested in working for the Hops Brewing Company, check them out. That's basically all we got. This has gone on a lot longer than I thought it would. I thought it would be like a couple weeks and we'll have, this ready to go. Back up and running here.
Yeah, maybe at least like a little bit of an update. Like, this is what we're shooting for timeline-wise.
But I'm getting crickets. That's kind of... Oh, sorry. That was 2 weekends ago. They went to Arvon, not last weekend. So last weekend was all hockey for them. I forgot about that. They were in Cadillac. Nice win for Max's team, and a tie as well, which, if you know that team, it's good to get a nice winner in a tie. You know, it's been a rough start for them at the beginning, but sounds like they're making some good progress. So that's good. She's drinking Mom Water, which is, what is it? Lemon blueberry flavored? Just water? What is Mom Water?
I feel like that's a seltzer.
Oh, is it really?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like my mom's water is vodka. I know that. I don't know what Mom Water is, but
Yeah, my mother would be whiskey for sure.
yeah.
Yes. Big Jack Daniels fan.
Okay. Andrea's more of a wine, like that's what she would drink,
Okay.
if anything. But she doesn't really drink that much. I don't know why, but it's just, I guess.
She sees what it does to you as a Detroit
exactly.
sports fan.
Exactly. She knows better. So, moving on.
Drinking craft beer, having fun, and talking sports in the state of Michigan. You're listening to State of My Sports.
It's vodka water seltzer, and it's called Karen. All right. Good to know. Good to know.
Interesting.
The Detroit Lions went into Chicago and got their first road win of the season in the Dan Campbell tenure, 31-30, in a nice come-from-behind gritty performance. The teams went into halftime 10-10 when the Bears outscored the Lions 14-0 in the third quarter. The Lions' first drive of the fourth, while trailing 24-10. Goff threw an interception, but it was called back by an illegal hands to the face penalty. And Swift took advantage with a 9-yard touchdown run. 1 minute and 4 seconds later, you got the Buckeye-on-Buckeye crime there when Okudah took an interception to the house to tie the game at 24. Justin Fields answered back with a 67-yard touchdown run, but they missed that extra point to put the Bears up 6 with 9:11 left. The teams exchanged a couple 3-and-outs, and with 5:23 from their own 9-yard line, the Lions put together an 8-play touchdown drive that took 3 minutes and 2 seconds off the clock, which included a huge 3rd and 8 play that netted Tom Kennedy 44 yards and was sealed by a Jamal Williams rushing touchdown, who is now tied for second in the league with 9 on the year. Bagley hit the extra point to put the Lions up, and the defense made a couple stops there with 2 huge stacks, one by Aiden Hutchinson, and then Aquara got his second of the day, and solidified their third win of the season. It was nice. Jared Goff, not anything spectacular, but took care of the football. I think that's kind of the biggest thing with him. He went 19 of 26, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Jamal Williams, again, getting the bulk of the carries with 16 carries for 59 yards with that touchdown that we already mentioned. DeAndre Swift, only 6 carries, so still seems to be on a pitch count. Justin Jackson got a couple plays in there, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, can't talk enough about this guy. 10 receptions, 119 yards. Absolutely unbelievable game for him, which was really good to see. It's nice to see. It looked like it was his first game back into it. You know what I mean? Because he was fighting those injuries. He had the concussion. He had, I think it was an ankle or something like that. So it was nice to see him get back into the groove there.
Yeah, he's been banged up, but he's also Mr. Reliable on this offense. Look, the guy catches the ball, and to have 10 catches on Jared Goff's 19 completions just goes to show that he's our number one weapon downfield. TJ Hawkinson's gone. He's going to have to step up a little bit more, and I'm good with it, man. He's going back to the end of last season till now. If you didn't have that injury stretch, you'd be looking at him as a guy that's like competing with the Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons of the world, the Cooper Kupps of the world. Maybe not longevity-wise, but in a stretch, looking very impressive. It's good to have him back on the field.
Yeah, he's definitely not as dynamic as they are and flashy, but he does it right. Like he reminds me so much of Golden Tate in his heyday when he was with the Lions, and I think that's something that they're going to really need. And hopefully Jameson Williams can be the flashy guy that can do it all, someone that they have to worry about and not just contain, if you will. I love what he's doing. He's so important. And when you look at what this wide receiving core is looking like, man, he's so important right now. And really, you got to have a great game from him to even stay close in these type of games.
Oh, yeah, to stand a chance. I mean, you can't, I don't know, the rushing game.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, not
59.
great.
I expected a lot more against a bad Bears run defense.
Especially at Soldier Field.
Yeah.
It's a tough place to really throw the ball around downfield much. Usually it seems to be a lot less scoring games, recent history. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just a solid overall average performance by the offense. Everything was kind of spread around.
Yeah, it was interesting how you look at the numbers and it's like, man, how'd they score 31 points?
Yeah.
Because you don't really see anybody outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown really exploding off the page there. Justin Fields, he was 12 of 20 for 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But rushing was crazy. He had 13 carries for 147 yards, and also 2 more additional touchdowns on the ground there. He accounted for 4, and he was very frustrating to play against. It was like you had him contained, and all of a sudden he would break tackles and go. And this seems to be a continuing issue for this defense, is these guys that can move around, these quarterbacks that can move, make it a little more difficult. Like, we're getting there, we're putting pressure on him, we're even hitting him, we look like we have him wrapped up, and all of a sudden just nope, not even close, and he just moves on.
Yeah, defense is making it very hard to spy on a guy like that. Kind of reminded me of flashes of that game Detroit had in the bag against Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes was able to break away on a couple runs when he didn't have too many downfield options throwing the ball. So yeah, it's history there. Detroit side defensive side of the ball. I don't know. You know me, Sam. I wanted the Lions to draft Justin Fields.
You're looking smart right now. Finally.
And this is the only time I've gotten to brag about that.
Yeah, right.
That idea, because Penei Sewell's been playing pretty phenomenal.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I don't.
That's a can't miss pick. Let's be honest. I was looking at the future of the franchise and hoping that maybe we could just make a splash with a quarterback name, something competitive there. But yeah, he's looking great. But again, it's the Detroit defense.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to keep up these kind of numbers going forward the rest of the season? Maybe. But he's running the ball more than any quarterback has in history.
Yeah, a lot of designed runs.
Yep.
Looks like they're finally okay with it. You know what I mean?
And that's not why I was the big fan of him. It wasn't because of his feet. I mean, he has that mobility, that option, but I just thought he'd drop back and be a gunslinger in Detroit.
Yeah.
And he's getting a few guys, but he doesn't really have a good wide receiving core yet. I'm sure he's still getting used to Chase Claypool too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and I think that was one of the better things about the defense. It was the passing yards that they held him to. Yeah, I mean, they had 150 passing yards, but 74 of those were to the tight end. 4 catches for 2 touchdowns. Mooney had 4 catches for 57 yards, and Chase Claypool only 1 catch for 8 yards. I mean, that's containing. You know what I mean? Like that's a positive thing, and I think we're seeing that kind of back-to-back games. Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers ended up with just under 300 yards passing, but it seemed like we, contained them for the most part. It wasn't like easy all the time. You know what I mean? And that's kind of something to hang our hat on. I did want to clarify here real quick. It is actually called. So Carrie sent me a picture here. It's called Mom Water. I don't know if we can see it in the camera here. It's actually called Mom Water, and she said in the comments that it's called Karen, and I thought she was joking because that's our mom's name, but it actually is called Karen. So it's lemon blueberry, and it's called Karen. So yeah, so just to clarify, I thought she was joking, and I didn't know how to, but she cleared it up for me. So thanks for clearing that up, Carrie. Anyways, I think the numbers kind of lay out pretty evenly. One of the biggest things that stood out to me was the penalties. 9 penalties for 86 yards for the Bears, and only 2 penalties for 15 yards for the Lions. It felt like the Bears were the Lions. You know what I mean? Like, how many times would we get a play and all of a sudden, we got to take it back for holding, or we get a stop, nope, we got to take it back because of a hands to the face Trinity Benson that got poked in the eye and somehow blew out his knee or something like that. That was one of the weirdest plays ever, but it was just like, that was the interception I think that got called back, was the when he got poked in the eye, and I think they had to cart him off the field for some reason. Like, it was bizarre. I don't know exactly, and I'm laughing and I feel bad because he got hurt, but it felt like all of those penalties were crucial drive killers for the Bears, and it really helped the Lions. Not only for that interception that changed the game, but just it seemed like drive in and drive out, they would shoot themselves in the foot. And it was nice to see somebody else shoot themselves in the foot. And I don't know if losing the way that they did by missing the extra point, that's so Lions. It felt so good for it to happen to someone else. So, really like that. On the defense, sticking with the defense, I thought Hutchinson seems to be starting to be used differently, where it's not necessarily, all right, buckle up, go for the quarterback every single time. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they're setting him in a spot to read the play and kind of drop back and just kind of let the play develop and then go to the ball. He did get the sack in the last drive. He also had 8 tackles, but I really think his best play was the pick six that Okudah had. Was he was getting ready to go, and he felt that, all right, the tight end let him loose, and he goes, that doesn't feel right. Step back, made that throw extra hard on Fields as somebody else was getting pressure. Like, I want to give them credit too. I forget who it was, sorry. But if Hutchinson didn't feel that and read that, it would have been a much easier play. He stepped back. They had to throw it over Hutchinson, and it ended up going right to Okudah for the pick six. That was it was nice to see. You know what I mean? I don't think he's necessarily written in stone that he's going to be a superstar yet by any means. But it kind of makes me feel a little better about I was never saying he was a bust or anything like that, but that talk was around. It was like, oh, he's not affecting the game nearly enough for a second round pick early on. I thought that was a little premature, and I think he's answering the bell a little bit. He looks healthier. He looks more comfortable, and I think that's really good. I think we have a foundational piece with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's if you look at the NFL, it takes a couple years for these defensive linemen, pass rushers, to catch up to the speed of the game and the size of the game. He's going against bigger offensive linemen than he ever has. It's nice to see him make that instinctive play, as opposed to watching him put 150% effort into something and he's not even crossing the line of scrimmage.
Yep, that's a good way to say it.
People got to remember he's still a big boy. He's a big frame, and he's got long arms. So, yeah, like you said, getting in the middle of a pass is sometimes better than, falling down at the quarterback's feet and not getting
exactly, especially the way
anywhere.
Justin Fields is hurt. Now, there was also a play that I think he over-pursued, and it allowed Justin Fields to get away from what should have been a clear sack because he kind of took the middle and opened it up. So I think Justin Fields kind of spun out and ran the other way, like right where Hutch should have been. So, I mean, those mistakes are still there, but it's still just really nice to see, like you said, the instincts being used. I think you have to have instincts. You can't just bully people in this league.
Yeah, you can't just rely on your physical attributes. We've seen guys become busts outside of, the Detroit Lions' second overall pick and Hayden Hutchinson. I don't want to call it a bust either. But, yeah, it's just nice to know that he's got that and he's mixing that in with, like, the NFL, style and, getting in the way of guys.
Yep, another bust label that was put on somebody mainly because of his injuries. Jeffrey Okudah. Nice to see him get a game-breaking play. You know what I mean? Like, he's been a lot better. His stats aren't wonderful by any means, but he's been a pleasant surprise, and he's been very, very good. To see him get that pick six, not only just because it was against his former teammate, which makes it even better, but just the fact that he was able to change a game, like, on the scoreboard in the moment. Like, that was so important. I think something that, the confidence that cornerbacks need eventually to start getting that extra swagger to continue to perform. You know what I mean? I know it sounds silly because, like, you don't necessarily need it to be a good corner, like the big game-breaking plays, but I think it's a piece to start becoming that shutdown corner. You know what I mean? So I was excited to see that. Happy for him. Long road to get back there. So really nice. And I think the best part about him was he's played 93% of the snaps this year. So, I mean, he's been banged up on a snap or two here and there where he's missed a couple snaps, but for the most part, he's playing, and it's great to see.
Yeah, I think you're expecting him to maybe have some time off, take some more plays off. You don't want to overdo it, especially for a team that's been struggling this year in the win column. But, yeah, he's healthy, and at the beginning of the year, he shut down some big-name wide receivers.
He did, yep.
A little bit of stretch in there where we've been banged up in other parts of the secondary, so it's putting a little more pressure on him.
Yep.
He's probably got to change the way he's playing, where he's lining up all the time. But, yeah, it's great to see that he's healthy and showing the value of that pick.
Yeah, yep, for sure. Secondary in general, ever since they fired, was it Aubrey Pleasant? Is that who it was? The secondary's coach. They have 4 interception. It just looked a lot better. I think Kirby Joseph was exposed a couple times in this game that I think he made the wrong read. It's hard to tell. There was that one that they should have handed him off on that long touchdown by Komet, but I don't know whose fault that was. But it just looked like a couple young guys not knowing how to communicate. And in my opinion, it looked like it was Joseph's fault. Like he was the one that should have read that better, but who knows?
Coming off, his best performance,
yeah,
at Lambeau.
Yep.
So maybe that had
just
something
as
to do with
importantly,
it
it was nice to see him out there after what happened at the end of that Packers game, wondering if he was healthy and all that stuff. But couple things that I wanted to bring up. In the losses, the Lions are -8 in the turnover margin, and in their 3 wins, they are +4. Obviously, that's not a new stat for any. I'm not breaking any news that the turnover margin is that important because it always has been and always will be. But Goff taking care of the football really is the key because not only are the interceptions just always bad, like it just seems like they've been at some of the worst times in previous games and in the games that they end up losing in a close game, if you will. So nice to see him take care of the football. He's got to continue to do that for this team to be successful. We kind of already talked a little bit about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just wanted to touch on just how important he is because of the lack of wide receivers. Shark's still out. Reynolds is out now, Cephas, and still no Williams. It's like you're dealing with guys like Tom Kennedy and Khalif Raymond are really your number 2 and 3 right now. And that's why Amon-Ra St. Brown is so important right now, and he needs to stay healthy. He needs to continue to do what he does. And I love the connection with him and Goff. I think it's something to it's not the flash in the pan that I personally was concerned that it could have been at the end of last year. It seems to be legit, and I think he's a legitimate wide receiver continuing to grow. So that's really all I wanted to say about that game. Kind of just going into the Giants matchup. Obviously, you got the 7-2 Giants, which, I mean, no question the key for this game is stopping the run in Saquon Barkley. He leads the league in rushing yards with 931 and second in 20-plus runs with 7. Against the second-worst run defense in all football, allowing 1,448 yards, which is 5.3 yards per carry and 160 rushing yards per game. That's the Lions' defense against, obviously, the best running back in football right now. That's really important. And we mentioned kind of how Justin Fields was the difference maker in that when it came on the ground here. Last 3 games, the Lions have only allowed 79 yards per game to the running backs. So containment, making Jones throw is going to beat you. I think Jones, he's the one that'll get you too. He's obviously not Justin Fields,
right,
or anything along those lines, or Josh Allen or something like that. But he's
sneaky.
He's sneaky good, and that makes me nervous. He's hard to bring down, and we just haven't shown that we've been able to stop that type of quarterback yet. And when you combine that with a Saquon Barkley, that's a matchup that I'm not looking forward to watching, and it's going to keep me up, up at night. I'm sure it's keeping the other coaches up, or the actual coaches, I should say.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know that the Giants' wide receiving core is that prolific, so it's one of those things where we can shut down with our secondary. But then you still have a 2-headed horse back there.
Yeah.
Between Daniel Jones being able to move his feet a little bit. I mean, Saquon Barkley, another guy coming back, showcasing, the potential that he had coming out of Penn State.
Yeah.
Getting back to that prime form. I'm not looking forward to it at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they try to stop him. Because like you said, they don't have a crazy good wide receiving core. I think they're actually missing their best wide receiver, if I remember correctly. I can't think of his name. It's not Shepard anymore, is it?
Yeah,
Sterling is it Shepard? I think he's out, right?
He tore his, I think it's ACL or Achilles.
Yeah, so he's out, so that helps But you got a couple other guys.
Kadarius Toney, they traded
he's
to
gone.
the Chiefs.
Kenny Galladay keeps getting sat.
Is he still on the roster? I don't know.
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram, but you can't tell that he plays football. He hasn't posted a football pic in a long, long time.
It's because I don't think he has a catch in a long, long time.
Gee whiz.
So it'll be interesting to see how. And the person that comes to mind is Jeffrey Okudah, because you had him in that. I think it was the Dallas game. He had like 15 tackles, was just pounding guys, like hitting
all over
hard
the field
and stuff. Like, he was all over the field.
Yep.
They were using him that way, and I feel like they might try that again, where he's not necessarily matched up on a wide receiver every down. It's more or less throw him out there, make him let him make a play, hit these guys hard, make Saquon Barkley earn every inch with a nice hard hit. You know what I mean? I think it's going to look similar to that. Just the Giants' defense isn't that elite, but as long as the offensive line continues what they're doing, I think the Lions will be able to move the ball, and I think it could be a long, drawn-out, type drives, kind of like it was against the Packers, and it's just coming down to getting a takeaway or two and taking care of that football. I think Swift's a very important key here. I want to see him full go, and just need somebody other than Amon-Ra St. Brown to make plays to win this type of game, because look, the Giants are going to put some points up. That's what's going to happen, and it's not because of how great their offense is, but it's because of how bad the Lions' defense still is. And
they got a solid kicker too, so if they're not scoring touchdowns, there's a good chance they're moving the ball across midfield, and they got a chance at tacking on a couple extra points.
Yeah,
that's a home game, right?
No, it's at the Giants.
It's at the Giants.
Yeah, so you have the 7-2 Giants against or hosting the 3-6 Detroit Lions, but the Giants are only a 3-point favorite, and it's actually moved around from 3 to 2.5. So that tells you who Vegas actually thinks is the better team.
Right.
You get that 3 points for the home field advantage. I mean, that's something's up here, and I wanted to dig into it a little bit. The Giants have wins by 1 point, 3 points, 8 points, 5 points, 4 points, 6 points, and another 8-point game. What is that? 7? All 7 of their wins, 1-score games. And I think that's what Vegas is looking at here. And Lions are competitive. They're not going to roll over. So I expect a really close game, and whoever takes care of the football will really get this game. And another thing that I wanted to point out, their best wins are Titans Week 1's Ravens, and their losses are to the Cowboys and Seahawks. So you got some similar opponents that the Lions have lost to as well. The Giants' wins opponent's record is 26-40-1. Their losses, their 2, are 12-7. So when they're playing a good football team, they lose. When they're playing a bad football team, they win. And you look at the Lions' opponent record, 40-16 overall. Lions, we walked into this season being like, they have a really easy schedule. This is why they can make some noise. They currently have, I think, the hardest schedule based on other teams' records that we've already played. So I think the Lions are tested. I think they're going to be ready to fight in this game. I'm excited to watch it. I'm not in that sell mode yet. I'm not going to do that. I think the Rams, how bad they're doing, is allowing me to stay on board with winning for the Lions a little bit, because I would be having that that problem, like which do I really want? Like, do I want to continue to win? Do I want to have a 7-win season, or do I want to just lose it all and move on? I'm still in that mode where it's like, I want to see progression. I want to see them win. I don't care about the draft pick yet. I know I will probably get there because that's just how I am, and I looked at the schedule and how it all works and who they have to beat. I don't think playoffs are possible. I know some people were sending me some text messages of like, all right, if you win this game, the probability is to make 100% of the playoffs in a wild card. I personally did it like myself, and I think they use like some kind of format. I don't see it, mainly because of who they're trying to catch, and that's the 49ers, I think, currently is in that number 2 spot. I know way too early to talk wild card and all that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of something that's on my mind, because I am fighting that with myself of win or lose, what it was more important, and right now I still think it's win.
Absolutely. I think in the NFL, any win's a good win. We've seen that the NFL is awfully unpredictable right now, with the Eagles losing last night to the Commanders, other teams losing to bad bottom feeder teams too early in the season. Mm-hmm. You can't help but think about the close games that they had early on.
Yeah.
Games where we had a lead and didn't contain the lead, didn't hold the lead.
Yep.
We got a couple little comeback late victories, late game victories, I guess, where bounces finally went our way, and stepped up and make big plays. It's unfortunate, like you said. I don't want to get back to Jared Goff, but some of the turnovers were at untimely, times in the game where you just completely lost momentum. 3-and-out interception. It's it makes you think like, oh, where we should be right now, where we could be, and we're really not that far out of it. And I'm with you. I'd rather see them pursue wins than try to tank at this moment.
I remember saying early on in this year, like when we were losing those couple games and they were close and all of that, I was like, this is the one that's going to bite us in the butt. This is the one that's going to be like, why? This is why we're going to miss the playoffs. This is why we're going to be out of contention of the playoffs 2 weeks before the end of the season. You know what I mean? Like, I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs, even if they go on this crazy win streak, which I know is pretty much impossible. But it's still going to be those 1 or 2 games that you've already mentioned. The Vikings game. I think the Seattle game it can kind of fall in line with that as well, where it's like there was a path to victory there, and that's why we're not going to win. That's why we're not truly a contender for the playoffs, and it's going to hurt. And I remember being like, I want it to hurt. And I said that going into the season. I'm ready for it to hurt, and I still don't like it.
Well, we're just closer than we've been in a long time, right?
Yeah.
But if you would have told me preseason that through our first 3 divisional games, we'd have 2 wins in those 3 games, I would take the over that Detroit was in playoff contention at that moment.
That's a really good point.
To lose a couple of those non-conference games and games that were close, games that kind of got out of hand at the same time.
Yep.
When could have held on to it. It's a tough spot to be.
Yeah.
It is, and it's year after year. I know everybody says it's same old lines. They're going to win games that they shouldn't win at the end of the season. I'd rather get it out of the way now.
Yeah.
If we're gonna settle for a mid first round pick, I'm cool with that. I still don't know that we have to be in the top 3 and go after a quarterback. I think we're gonna see a couple big quarterback classes next year and the year after.
Yeah.
If guys get out of there a little bit early, and
I still think we're in a learning stage, and I'm all for learning. I'm all for learning that we don't have to take a quarterback. I'm all for learning that we know that we don't need to take a cornerback one because we have a Kuda. I'm all for learning that, hey, when Swift is healthy, he's still really good. We don't have to take a running back early. We don't need to take a offensive lineman early. We don't need to force a quarterback. Like, I want to know all of these things. And the next one for me is I want to know that Jameson Williams is the real deal. Because if you compare Jameson Williams with Amon-Ra St. Brown, you don't have to take a wide receiver. Now, if Jameson Williams sucks, you have to start looking at that. You have to start being prepared to take a wide receiver early. That's how I like to look at what I'm learning. It's check boxes of what we do not have to take. And I feel like we're learning that we don't have to take these things. And that's exciting. We don't have to take an edge guy. Yeah, if Will Anderson is there and it works out, you don't pass up on him, but you don't have to force it either. You don't have to take the 3rd best guy in the draft because that's the position you need most. Because I think that's what really screwed the Lions over in all of the previous rebuilds, and kind of going down a different rabbit hole of what's important with this regime and stuff. But like, we need to fully trust this regime. We need Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell to feel like their job is safe. That's very important, because as soon as they don't feel like it's safe, that's when they're going to make a pick to think about the right now instead of the build that they're still working towards. That's what really killed Bob Quinn. He made a couple really good picks early on, and I mean, he made some good picks later on too, but it's like he was making picks for the missing piece, not necessarily, hey, this is the guy that's the most talented, let's take him and we'll make it work. You know what I mean? He was I guess rushing the build because he felt like his seat was getting too hot. And as long as we can keep that from happening, that's the most important thing, because you need this regime to focus on their big picture and building, and not just all right, we got to make something happen now. All right, it's time. This is our year. We got to do it now. And what we were seeing early on in this year is that ball starting to roll, at least with Dan Campbell. Like, all right, we're picturing moving on from him now. We need wins to make sure that he doesn't feel that heat. We need those wins to make sure we don't feel like we need to push him out the door, or at least have both sides talk and have a legitimate argument. So, I like the winning. I want to see it continue. I think if you can split one of the next two games, obviously you got the Giants and then the Bills. Bills is going to be a very tough game, but if you split those two games, I think you can continue to build it and you start doing the look ahead. We'll get into that as we go, but don't drop these two. Make sure what we're doing right now has some legs and it continues. So that's kind of where we're at with it. But I did want to talk some NFL football while we're on it, and really, I'm gonna do some music. Can I do just maybe some quiet music here? Yeah, give it maybe a little louder. I don't know how loud that is, but it just makes me feel a little better. I did want to talk some NFL football, just kind of we're a little over the halfway point, so we just wanted to kind of discuss some teams that are better than what we thought, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's a certain team that stands out to you. I can start unless you want. You ready to go?
I circled 5 teams
right.
For better. I'll get into a little more narrow list as we get down some of these questions. Real quick, Dolphins. Obviously, they brought in Tyreek Hill, but I didn't know what that was going to do with him signing a big contract. Tua, there were still talks about, and the whole organization was under some backfire too between the ownership and the Tom Brady and the Sean Payton conversations that were going on maybe behind closed doors. Giants, obvious, probably my number one team that's better than I thought.
Yeah.
Seahawks, they're up there. The Vikings are up there. I'm also going to throw the Falcons in there. They've been playing like a weird, kind of obviously a weird division, but they've come up with like weird games and tight games, and they've been in every game. But that's probably where I'm looking. But probably the Giants is my number one. Seattle real close at number 2.
Yeah. The reason why I don't think it's the Giants is because I think they're kind of fraudulent yet.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see it against some really good teams, and I want them to beat a really good team to really believe it. Like, yeah, beating the Titans week 1 is one thing, but I don't know. I want to see a little bit more from them. Not this week. I want to see them be a fraud this week. The one that really stands out is the Dolphins. I think, like, for the reasons you already said. The Tyreek Hill was intriguing, but you wondered about that Tua. How is that going to work? And he looks legit. So they're 7-3 overall, but I think they're like 6-1 when he doesn't get killed on the field, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like 2 of the losses, he died on the field at some point. So that team is really interesting to me. I don't think they're necessarily Super Bowl contenders. Like, I don't put them in the Chiefs-Bills conversation, even though they're technically ahead of the Bills in the standings. But man, they're interesting, and Seattle's very interesting to me too. I don't buy it yet. I don't know why I won't buy it. It's probably because I just don't like them. I can't stand Pete Carroll. But they are obviously better than anybody thought they would be.
Yeah.
So the most surprising one for me is the Dolphins, though. Like, I didn't think it was going to work, and it clearly has. And then what about on the other side? Most surprisingly bad. And it doesn't have to be record. Just like, man, like they're not good anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess the obvious is the Rams.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champs. It's always tough to repeat, but to go from first to worst is about as bad as it gets in that category. One that I picked looking at the season right now from maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, the Jaguars. They were looking kind of good at the start of the season. I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to step up and have a little bit better year. I think they've had a pretty tough schedule as well. And did I have one more? Oh, yeah. The AFC West outside of Kansas City Chiefs.
Right. Yeah, the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders.
Yeah, all those teams are having subpar years, and I thought that was going to be the toughest conference in football. It's clearly not. Chargers had some injuries. Obviously, Russell Wilson struggling with a new stadium, new atmosphere, new what's that, elevation, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, in Denver, Mile High. And the Raiders.
Yeah,
you know,
that one's really weird
Devontae
too.
Adams. You got a couple other, Darren Waller. You got some weapons out there. You got a good run game. Derek Carr?
Derek Carr.
Yeah.
They're just really surprising because they were a playoff team last year. And
Yeah.
with the interim coach and all of the stuff that they went through, it was like, all right, they're going to get some stability with Josh McDaniels. Man, that's just a dumpster fire. That does not look good right now.
Looks like the number one job in football, right? Next
Yeah,
year.
seriously.
But yeah, that's what I got.
Another one for me is the Packers. It's not just because they're 4-6, and I think they can turn things around. I'm just like hoping they don't. But when they've looked bad in the games that they've looked bad. Yeah, they had a nice win against the Cowboys. The Cowboys kind of, I still don't understand McCarthy and how his brain works. I think he kind of gave that game away to an extent. But I'm more or less curious if that was the one that changes it for them. You know what I mean? They're going to start putting some wins together. That's very intriguing to me. Surprised how bad it's been for them early on. I think the other one that really stands out for me is the Panthers. I thought they were going to be better. I thought the Baker Mayfield experiment was going to work. It's like bringing him in and stuff. Obviously, they moved on from McCaffrey. What was the wide receiver that they?
Yeah, Robbie Anderson.
They moved on from him. So it's going to fall. The bottom's going to fall out completely here soon. But the talent that they had and the talent on defense too that I think they have, it was surprising that it didn't work so quickly. I know they're going back to Baker Mayfield. I'm curious to what that's going to do. I'm wondering if he was actually still hurt and they just didn't really talk about it. But
especially in that division too, you got Atlanta that Mariota and Ritter, who's the worst of the two.
Yeah.
That's your concern going into the weekend. The New Orleans Saints down year. Tampa Bay taking a step back. Like I kind of thought Carolina was going to be a wild card team, sitting there, competing for the wild card, but clearly it doesn't look like it's going that way.
Yep. Most overrated team. So top of the standings that you think still has no shot of winning. I kind of already said mine with the Dolphins. Like they're 7-3, but I don't put them in that tier. I don't think they can do it, and that's might be a little unfair. Is there someone else that stands out to you in that manner?
I went with the Baltimore Ravens. They've had a double-digit lead in 8 of 9 games this year and have lost 3 of those 8 games. You can't have that in the playoffs. I think the Bengals are better than their record's showing. The AFC is pretty deep, and I like Lamar Jackson. I like what he does. If they can all get healthy and get his tight end back and get wide receivers back on the field for him, then I might not take this pick. But as of right now, halfway through the season, I think they're the most overrated number 1 team in their own division.
All right, underrated team that has a bad record but still has a legitimate shot at a playoff run. Am I safe to say it's going to be your Bengals? I mean, they're 5-4, but you think they're the best team in that division?
Yeah, I didn't pick the Bengals on this one.
Who'd you pick?
I drew a line between 2 teams, but I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to be better. This Jeff Saturday thing, let's see how it plays out. But ahead of them, the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
They got a good wide receiving core, a good running back depth. I don't know that Taylor Heineke is a guy that's going to lead a team to the playoffs. And when I picked these 2 teams, Sam, I didn't read the second part of your question.
Okay.
I saw underrated team, and I wanted to pick the Commanders because they were in last place in their division.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And it's not that I think that they can jump and win this division because I think the Eagles are that far ahead of everybody.
Yeah, yep.
But to jump the Cowboys and Giants, I could see that as a very big possibility. Maybe contend for a wild card.
Right, with the Eagles being 8-1. And the Commanders being in last place in that division, I think they're the best last place team with a dominant team in their own division.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then who are your top 3 teams? Like who you think is going to finish? Who do you think are the best 3 teams? Without throwing the records out the window, just who you've seen so far.
No records. And this is in no order. Actually, let me just put it in alphabetical order. I got the Bills, Chiefs, and I got the Eagles.
Yep.
I like the Bills. I know Josh Allen has had some questionable plays in the last few weeks, and you got to close out games like that against Minnesota. I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes and what he's able to do week in and week out. If he's got Kelsey the rest of the season, look out for that offense. And the Eagles, I know they lost, and I know I just picked the Commanders, but I still feel like collectively, both sides of the ball, they probably have the best roster right now in the NFC.
Yeah, I think they're the only three teams that you would be like that if you're like in a confidence pool type thing and you're making just straight up picks every single week. You don't pick those teams to lose unless they're obviously going against each other. I think those are the three that really stand out. Outside of that, you could honestly see anybody beat anybody.
Right.
Day in and day out. And obviously, I mean, the Bills have lost 3. You get that. Obviously, the Eagles just lost to the Commanders, and the Chiefs have already lost 2. But it's like, heading into a game, they're going to win. They know it. You know it. You know, heading into it, everybody knows it. That's just kind of where it is. Those are the only 3 teams that I think you can say that for so far this year. What about your bottom 3 teams that just guaranteed loss? I think Texans, right, is kind of the one they're really, really bad.
Yeah, the Texans. I also got the Steelers.
Yeah, those are the 2 that really stood out to me. And like the third one, I honestly didn't know where to go because, yeah, I would say the Rams. I hope it's the Rams, but I don't think they're bad enough to really do that yet, especially if Stafford gets healthy. The Jags obviously have shown to beat anybody. Like, I don't have a third team, honestly.
I'm going to go with the Saints.
Saints, yeah.
I'm going to go with the Saints.
When you have Andy Dalton as your quarterback, I think that's probably the safe one, right?
Yeah, Andy and, Jameis Winston. Flip the coin. Which one do you want?
Well, Jameis hasn't played in a while, has he?
Yeah, Michael Thomas is out for the season, and that's looking pretty ugly. And I had him in fantasy football. I'm kind of bummed. He had a good little start there before his toe gave out, but I just think they're in a bad place. Yeah. Alvin Kamara, I think he's still like sitting with some stuff in a cloud above his head from Pro Bowl, right? Yeah, some legal stuff, and I don't know what direction they go. I feel like their defensive players that are good are old. So I don't know that that's going to sustain. I think they got a lot of draft picks coming up, but yeah, I got to throw the Saints in there with the Steelers.
And I would put the Raiders pretty close to that, but I think the Raiders are too talented to fall in that line. Yeah, which is where I went.
Right,
why I would go with the Saints instead of the Raiders.
Yep, looking at that, looking at their their roster and the division that they're playing in. I can't think of another team that really fits in that tier. Other teams have shown maybe the Browns, but again, no Deshaun Watson yet, so who knows what they're going to do. But
sweet. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our NFL chatter. Let's get into some college football.
From the Red Wings to Michigan State, we're talking about it. This is State of My Sports.
The Spartans got back to 500, not sitting at 5-5 with their 27-21 win against the now 4-6 Rutgers Scarlet Knights. MSU never trailed and scored a touchdown in the first 3 quarters of the game and kicked 2 field goals in the fourth. After a late Rutgers touchdown with 47 seconds left to make it a 1-score game, MSU recovered the onside kick to seal the big win to put themselves 1 win away from becoming bowl eligible. I mean, real quick here, I want to go through some of the numbers, but nobody really cares about the game. Nobody cares. I would be shocked if even Spartan fans actually sat and watched this game. I really would, because that's just kind of the way the Spartan fans kind of treat their teams. But it's worth talking about a little bit here. Peyton Thorne went 19 of 35 for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. Berger, second nice game. He had 16 rushes for 85 yards and a touchdown. That's 5.3 average. Broussard had 11 carries for 80 yards. So the tandem was really pretty good there for those two, which is a key to their team. Jaden Reed, 4 catches for 90 yards, a touchdown. Barker, 4 catches, 64 and a touchdown. Keon Coleman, 4 catches for 26 yards. Total yards, it was actually surprising to see Rutgers outgain Michigan State with 460 to 453. Passing yards pretty close. Rushing yards 224 for Rutgers to MSU's 197. 25-25 in first downs. 8 of 16 third down efficiency for the Rutgers, where Michigan State was 4 of 11, which I think was the key of this game, staying close and Rutgers kind of putting a little bit more pressure. It's not like Rutgers had the ball to tie or win or anything like that. So I don't consider those close games. But when you have the onside kick opportunity, I guess you kind of have to. It was a cleaner game for Michigan State when it came to the penalties. That was another key part. 14 penalties for 108 yards. for Rutgers and 6 penalties for 50 yards for MSU, which was a nice change because they've been known to, not be very disciplined and causing some issues, shooting themselves in the foot, if you will. Look, you're never going to get too excited to beat Rutgers. You just don't. I'm sorry, this game doesn't change my opinion on MSU, and it doesn't really, change the trajectory of this season. But in this moment, the way this season has gone, it's a feel-good win and a very important win because last week was obviously the big one against Illinois, upsetting them the way that they did. That was the big one, and you felt like they might have had a letdown with some of the injuries. Obviously, the 8 guys still out for the suspensions, but they kept going. It wasn't the style points. It's just win, just win, baby. I say that all the time, and that's what they're doing, and that's when their backs were against the wall here again. In these last couple games, it's like they showed up for each other, for their coach. And all joking aside about Mel Tucker, what I've seen the last couple weeks, I really thought that game against Michigan was going to be the blow that this team couldn't survive from. You know what I mean? And they did. They answered the bell. They've got up off the mat and really refocused on what's important, and that's getting that bowl game. So I don't know. What did you have any thoughts on MSU? Just not necessarily this game, but just as a whole, like how important this win was, and just really stacking it on top of last week's win, I think is the key here.
They're playing with some pride and some passion, and they didn't bring any of that to Ann Arbor with them, except for maybe in the tunnel. Again, they're playing a little better on the field. We don't have to talk about anything off the field.
Yeah.
You have to beat Rutgers.
You do.
I think a loss against Rutgers would be the low of the low, and that might put a little more question in the minds of maybe the fan base or the alumni or the sports program staff. I think Mel Tucker will be fine in the long run. We'll see how he does recruiting and then also using the transfer portal. Yep. But yeah, this is a must win in my opinion, and I think it's to salvage the season. Are they still on pace to win or play in a bowl game? If
they beat Indiana, they will play in a bowl game, or if they win one of the next two, they will be bowl eligible.
Okay.
And really, it's not necessarily about becoming bowl eligible and you hang your hat on that. It's necessarily like looking at what this season was projecting towards, and that was there was a legitimate shot as a 3-win year, and they didn't allow the bottom become that drastic. What I mean? Like we always head into the season, like what's the ceiling, what's the floor? I think our floor was right around 6 wins. Maybe it was 7. I'm trying to remember where we all landed. We can look that up. Like once the season's said and done, we'll kind of revisit what we said preseason. But it's like they had a legitimate shot of only 3 wins.
Yeah.
It was looking like that's where this season was going, and they fixed it. You know what I mean? Does that mean that they're going to be successful in this Big Ten? No, it doesn't. But what it means is this team is talent-wise is not even a 6-win team, in my opinion. They've, the upsets for Illinois and really Wisconsin was another big one that I'm not sure was an upset, but they answered the bell and showed up when they probably shouldn't have. And those are the 2 games that are really the biggest difference. Those are good wins, no matter who you are, in this type of year, in this climate. So that's where I'm necessarily looking at it. Is you tell me heading into this season that they were going to get 6 wins, I'm saying sign me up. You know what I mean? As a Michigan fan, I'm like, yeah, let's do 6 wins and see how that goes. But it was like I started looking at that as this could be a 3-win team, a 4-win team. That's when you start looking at, all right, 6 wins. Good job. You know what I mean? It just you've changed the trajectory of where this was going, and you picked yourself up when everything was against you. So I think there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah, in a way, it's you can look at it as a successful season because it wasn't looking like that. Mm-hmm. There were signs of things going the opposite direction, like you said, and if they can close out 1 out of their next 2, Indiana and who else? Penn State.
Yeah. So
that'll be a tough one.
It will be. So currently, like Richard Johnson of SI.com, he projects them to be in the Gator Bowl, which is in Jacksonville, playing the SEC Arkansas Razorbacks, which I think that'd be a pretty fun matchup. I think Arkansas would absolutely wipe the floor with this Michigan State team. But then you got Scott Dochterman, yeah, I said that right, of the Athletic. He has them projected to play in the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit against a MAC team, Buffalo, is what he currently has. Now, I looked at that, and I'm like, what would you prefer as a Spartan fan? Like, if you were a Spartan fan, which one would you rather? Would you rather have go down to Florida and get lost in the shuffle, if you will, and nobody really know who played in that game? Or would you rather play in your home state, create that type of momentum in a state that you need to recruit in? Like, you need to find some really big recruits in the state of Michigan. Like, are they high end? Not always, but it's important. And the Spartans in general do a good job recruiting in the state of Michigan. I look at it as that. It's like, no, use that. Go get some extra exposure in your state. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got Big Ten number 8. Is that where they would fall in the Big Ten rankings? And that's how they match up that bowl game? That's my guess, yeah. Because if they're the 8th ranked Big Ten team playing Arkansas, who maybe is the 8th ranked SEC, I don't know. I haven't looked at those standings. They don't stand a chance in that game, especially down in Florida. Yeah, I'm with you. Play against Buffalo, you better smack them. You better beat them. That's the downside of playing in that game. You got a MAC team that wants to prove themselves against the Big Ten. That's December 26th, serves me right, day after Christmas. Yeah. Like I guess I'd rather get the bowl game out of the way a little bit earlier if I'm Michigan State, the program, the fan base. And, boy, I don't know. I feel like Arkansas is leaps and bounds above Michigan State. I wouldn't want to deal with that again. Yep, I agree.
If it's craft beer in Michigan sports, we may not be the authority, but we love both like a fat kid loves cake. Hot, hot! This is State of My Sports.
Michigan stays unbeaten with their 34-3 win against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Michigan. Whoa. What's up?
You said Michigan State.
Did I say Michigan State?
Oh, Michigan stays unbeaten. I was about to say, Sam, don't go down this one.
Nope, not doing that. Against Nebraska, Michigan took a 14-0 lead with a Corum touchdown and along with a Ronnie Bell, and exchanged field goals in the second quarter to take a 17-3 lead into halftime. They shut out Nebraska 17-0 in the second half to win 34-3. J.J. McCarthy, 8 for 17 for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Blake Corum, 28 carries, 162 yards, a touchdown. And then Donovan Edwards, only 2 carries for 13 yards. That was very interesting to me. They made the comment that he might be fighting an injury. I don't know where that came from. I don't know. I didn't hear about that heading into the game. I don't remember seeing him limp off. So news to me, but he's really important for this team. Ronnie Bell, 4 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. He also had that other one that I think who ended up getting credit for that touchdown?
Was it Anthony?
I thought it was too, but yeah, I think it must have been Andrew Anthony. You're probably right. So that one that he ran around the sideline and then fumbled heading in, that could have been disastrous, man.
Oh, I mean, he almost stepped out of bounds like 4 times on that run too. Like got pushed out of bounds, his heels almost crossed the line, then he turned it upfield, and yeah, you hate to see the play end like that, because that's a bounce that doesn't always go your way. It either gets out of the end zone or defensive, safety is around to scoop that one up. But luckily it landed in the right hands. And,
and it was.
It's also just good to see Ronnie Bell make a play like that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Just in general, so Michigan dominated the game. 412 total yards to 146. Passing yards, 148 to 71. Rushing yards, 264 to 75. Yards per play, 6-3. First downs, 27-8. Third down efficiency, Michigan was 4 of 10 to Nebraska's 5 of 15. Michigan, 2 of 2 on fourth down. I think they're still perfect on fourth down, right? I think they were heading into the game. I want to say they're like 13 for 13 on fourth down this year. Crazy stat right there. That's just unbelievable. And then only 1 penalty for 15 yards. Time of possession 35-32 to 24 minutes and 28 seconds. So dominated this football game. Again, I think it's time to move on from this. I don't think it's worth talking about this specific game. It's just Nebraska, a really, really bad Nebraska team with interim head coach, I believe, still. So like I'm not going to get all 6 to midnight about this type of game. But what I really want to talk about is what Michigan has done. So Michigan now ranks first nationally in scoring defense with 11.2 points per game, total defense 232.8 yards per game, rushing defense 72.7 yards per game, and they're fourth in the country and first in the Big Ten in passing defense for 160.1 yards per game. Unbelievable what this defense is doing. This was the question mark heading into the year, was how can they reload? They lost 3 first-round talents on the defensive side of the ball, and that's exactly what they did. They have completely reloaded, and really this is year 2 of this game, even though it is a new defensive coordinator, and they are looking so comfortable in it. They are responsible, and they're starting to get a couple game breakers in there. I want to see it a little bit more, but I mean, you don't have to either. If you are good on all layers of your defense, you don't have to be a game breaker. Just do your job. And that's what I really like about this defense is they do their job and let the plays come to them. And this defense is just, the numbers speak for themselves. Obviously, all joking aside with the schedule and stuff, I know it's not a good schedule. I get that. They haven't played anybody really outside of Penn State. I get all of those things. But when you are doing it back-to-back years like they did last year into this year, that's where you get excited. You know what I mean? So just the defense in general, just absolutely exciting. They're the reason why, along with our running game, that I think they can beat anybody. I really do. Will they? I'm not ready to say that yet, but they have the ability to. So just really, really exciting. An exciting team. Another stat that really stood out to me, I know this is a popular one, or actually this one isn't, but Michigan has scored in 8 of their 9 opening drives for every single game. Everybody says, oh, they start out slow. Yeah, when you look at the halftime score, it's like, yeah, it could be a bigger blowout. But when you're scoring in 8 of your 9 opening drives, that is a hot start, in my opinion. The one that they didn't score was in the MSU game when they fumbled inside, I think, the 30. They were getting ready. They were at least kicking a field goal. I think it was a first down play, and I think it was a fumble. I forget who it was by. It doesn't matter. But that was the only game that they didn't score in the opening drive. If that is so important in these, look, Illinois is going to be potentially a tough game. You got to do it against Illinois. You cannot fall behind. You got to do that against Ohio State. You have to score, whether you're answering their first score or you're taking an early lead. So important. Getting into playoffs, bowl games, all that stuff, that's super important, and I love to see it. And I don't know, I think that's a sign of a good offense, balanced offense. So
yeah, very balanced.
An offense that knows what they want to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when you're running the ball as well as they have all season, it's hard not to look at time of possession at the bottom of that stat line. And maybe that's where we don't have an opportunity to really figure out what we have in total on defense because they're not on the field very often.
That's a great point.
We're holding on to the ball. We're making long drives and, again, burning clock. And, it's hard to say that they're collectively as a team better than last year because of the defense
but
that we had last year. But they are better overall. And Jake Moody's making field goals. It's good to have kind of every base covered. And we'll see what happens when they face off with Ohio State here in a couple weeks. Let's see if we can slow them down just enough and also still lean on our run game, give JJ an opportunity to make some plays downfield. And if we can keep their wide receivers somewhat in check, I think that's a game that we should have no problem going down to Columbus and walking away with a win.
Yep, another incredible stat with this team. Over the last 6 games, they have outscored their opponent 138-10 in the second half. In the last 6 games, this is the Big Ten. This is the Big Ten schedule. The last 6 games, they have outscored their opponent 138-10. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. And their only points were 3 to Penn State and 7 to Indiana. And nobody scored in the second half since Penn State.
That's less than 2 points a game.
That's insane. Yeah. It's an incredible number, and that's a sign of good coaching. That's a sign of physical team that's just wearing down their opponent. And look, they did that last year against Ohio State. That's how they beat Ohio State, was they wore them down. They beat them up. That's what this team continues to do. Is it flashy? Is it exciting? No. But it's how you win football games. This is how you go into Columbus and win a football game, is you do this. I don't want to say confident, because I still got to get through this week, and then we'll really talk about the Michigan-Ohio State game. But, look, I'm not going to guarantee a win, but obviously that's just silly to do. But it's very well possible. It is. You go back a few weeks, like they had the look-ahead spread, and I think OSU opened as like a 14-point favorite. And then it went down to like 11. Then it went down to 10. I want to say it's right around like 8 right now. And I'm curious by that game, that when that kickoff starts, I bet you it'll be inside a touch, inside 6 points. Or inside 7 points, I should say. 6 or less. I really think it's going to move. I think there's going to be a lot of money on Michigan, because the way that they play travels, the way that they play is a huge disadvantage for the way Ohio State plays. Now, can Ohio State come out and expose Michigan? Yeah, that's a very well possibility. We've seen it before against top-tier Michigan defenses. But what we saw last year, I think, is what Harbaugh's always wanted, and he's finally got it, and he's continuing to reload it. So, last thing I want to talk about with Michigan was Blake Corum. 162 more yards and another touchdown. Do you think he's a Heisman candidate?
I personally do.
Yeah.
I do. I think he's more of a Heisman candidate, in all honesty, right now, than Aiden Hutchinson was last year at the end of the season. And that's after Aiden had a big game against Ohio State.
Yep.
He still showed up. Look, Michigan's offense would be nothing right now without Blake Corum. And I'm not saying that Donovan Edwards isn't good enough to fill that void. He's shown signs that he is. He's been a great complimentary number 2. But you look at numbers from recent running backs, the latest running backs to win the Heisman. It's been a kind of a quarterback-dominated trophy most recent years, right?
Yep.
But you match them up with what Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram and these guys did, and how can you not vote for them? And if there's a year where maybe there isn't a clear-cut favorite quarterback, if C.J. Stroud is the number 1 quarterback in college football, I don't know that translates to what Blake Corum is amongst running backs in college football.
I would agree with that. I would agree completely. And the fact that they go head-to-head, I think is a huge. I think whoever wins that game will be the front runner. I don't know if Corum will ever be the front runner, to be honest with you, because I do look at it as a quarterback trophy. And whether you agree with that or not, I think that's just the nature of what it's become. You got C.J. Stroud. He's leading the way at plus 128. You got Hendon Hooker at plus 368. Drake May for North Carolina, plus 537, and then you got Blake Corum, 4th in the odds at least, at sitting at plus 550. Like I don't think he's done enough to win this necessarily. I think the comparison that you made with the Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram stats are interesting. Currently, as we sit, Corum would project to be, a few hundred, 600 less yards. Rushing yards than Derrick Henry, 7 less touchdowns, and then pretty much, he kind of matches up pretty well with the Mark Ingram stats, pretty close to that, which is a good comparison. But then you look at like who Derrick Henry beat out. He beat out Christian McCaffrey, Watson, and Baker Mayfield, where Ingram beat out Toby Gerhart, McCoy, and Sue. Where I think C.J. Stroud and Hendon Hooker and Drake May are way better than what Toby Gerhart, McCoy, and Sue were to their teams. You know what I mean? What Sue did was unreal. I think he should have been probably ranked a little higher because he was such a game breaker in college. But I think you're seeing higher end guys here. But I am curious with how the odds will change once that Michigan-Ohio State game happens, because if they both put up big numbers, you could see those two kind of like fighting for it out of the two. but you would need 5 touchdown game like we saw last year with Hassan Haskins. You know what I mean, for Blake Corum, which I'm not sure they're going to necessarily do it that way. So shutting down CJ Stroud is obviously the biggest thing. But if he gets shut down against Michigan, I think he should fall out of contention. I really do. And that's when you look at Hendon Hooker to jump in, because he's just going to continue to pile up incredible numbers here. So just pretty interesting to see how it's going. Currently he's at 1,187 rushing yards, which is second in the country, 16 touchdowns, which is first, 56 missed tackles force, which is at fifth, and then 670 yards after contact, which is fourth in the country. What he's doing is really impressive. I love what he's doing. And I'm not even sure he's the best running back on the team. That's the crazy thing about it. And the funny thing is I said that last year when Haskins was doing what he was doing. I was like, he might be the third best running back on the team. And this is another thing you need to see them start doing, is it's the revolving door. You need to reload. You need to continue to do it. You got to have these backups that are just as good, just waiting for their time. You got to have that to continue to be successful, which Michigan wants to do. Yeah, it's great that they made the playoff. They won the Big Ten, and they're right in contention again this year. That's back-to-back years that they're really back to where they want to be. You can't have the fall off. That's really the biggest thing, is not allowing that fall off. Because what are we seeing with Alabama? The first time in how many years that they've fallen off, That's what we want Michigan to be. We want this game to matter between Michigan and Ohio State each and every year, to tell you who's going to playoff, who's winning the Big Ten type thing. So
yeah, and with Alabama, historically, especially during their recent dominance, the Nick Saban era, they've always had another running back ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? If not two. I feel like the running backs always stuck around for 2, 3, sometimes 4 years, and if it wasn't their lead running back, they had another guy that was still going to come back as a senior.
Mm-hmm.
So those years where they were winning national championships, it was mostly because they had dominant run games. Now, when they adjusted their offense and brought in all these high power, fast weapons, they had stretches of that, but then you lose 2 wide receivers in the same draft real quick, then it's tough to fill that void and to do that long term. So I'm a fan of what Michigan's doing, leaning on Blake Corum. Again, I think he's making way more positive, plays on his own than some of these quarterbacks are with their wide receivers, and some of these wide receivers are without their quarterbacks. I think he's deserving of a trip. I also thought Kenneth Walker was last year.
Yeah, I agree
and
with
that. That's again where I have issues with the Heisman, the trophy. And you can't throw these freshmen in there. I'm sorry. I'm old school with that. I get if you're the best player, leaps and bounds. You could be an automatic number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. But what Drake May's doing, right, as a redshirt freshman in North Carolina, he's got great numbers. But it's what do you think about the ACC?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about the competition that they're playing? Now, Blake Corum's been nothing but consistent.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think he's the number 1 running back in college football, and I think he should be there.
Yeah, I definitely think he should be there. I'm not sure I agree that he's the best running back, hands down. I think he's got a good complement to make his stats explode. But when he has these type of stats, you can't argue against it, I think, is kind of the way I look at it. But the thing that I don't like about the Heisman is the fact that you had, 3 quarterbacks there last year? Everybody knew Bryce Young was the best quarterback. There was no question about that. So why isn't Kenneth Walker there? You should allow Bryce Young to be there. If you want C.J. Stroud to be there, that's perfect. Or Kenny Pickett, whatever. Either one of those guys. You don't need all 3 of them there, period. So if you want to have Aiden Hutchinson there representing the defense, I don't think he was the best defender in football. I think Will Anderson probably should have been there over him. But, Kenneth Walker deserved to be there. And that's one thing that I'm hearing a lot on Sports Talk. It's if Kenneth Walker didn't get to go, then Corum shouldn't go.
Right.
Well, that's kind of stupid, because you were arguing that Kenneth Walker should be there, and what Corum's doing is just as good as what Kenneth Walker is doing. So it's either one or the other. You know what I mean? But I don't think we need to get into the Michigan State side of it. It's just more or less, I think Kenneth Walker should have been there, and I think Corum should be there. Now, if he doesn't produce against Ohio State and they lose, I'll change my conversation.
Absolutely.
But I'm projecting to be like, okay, he's going to have a good game, and they're either going to have a close loss or they're going to win. And that's where I'm going to be like, he deserves to be there after that.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's basically where we're at.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. State of My Sports.
Do you want to talk college football, like a little bit of the playoffs, or should we just wait? Just do that next week. Let's just do that next week.
Yeah, there's a lot that still has to play out, right?
Yeah, and it's really not. It's chalk. Georgia's number 1. Ohio State's number 2. Michigan's number 3. TCU's 4.
The last 4 undefeated teams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't really need to get into that. Things will fall into place. Still got some time here, so no reason to worry too much about that. But we are going to do our betting hero picks. But before we get into those, if you want to support the podcast, go to bettinghero.com, put in promo code MIBETS. If you want to bet on sports, that's kind of the key. You don't just go to it and sign up. You have to use their website to pick which platform you want to use. You sign up, you deposit money, you start betting, have a good old time. I'm actually on a nice little hot streak, which is fun. But that's basically all you got to do. That's it. And we'll that's how you support us, basically. So bettinghero.com, promo code MIBETS. Get into it. That's all we got. But we're going to get into our picks of the week. I got to pull up Ryan's picks because I just got them to me. There we go. I got them. All right. Last week, Micah and Ryan went 4-3. I wrote down 4-4 for me, but I think it was 4-3 as well. I'm going to have to double check that. John, you went 5-2. Kyle, 3-4. So, Micah's still leading the way, 47-33 overall. Ryan and I are tied at 42-38 overall. John, 45-35. So you're 10 games over 500. Actually, you're in second. Sorry. What was I doing there? And then Kyle bringing up the rear at 39-41. We got some NFL picks to start. Back to Thursday Night Football. We got a decent Thursday night matchup, so we're going to start with that one. We got the Titans at the Packers. The Packers, a 3.5-point favorite. Interesting. Against the Titans. Kyle's taking the Packers. Micah's taking the Titans. Ryan is taking the Packers. What are you going to do, John?
I'm surprised Micah's taking the Titans.
I was too.
I don't know. I feel like I'm taking the Packers.
Yeah.
Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers has something to prove. I think they're going to get the running game involved. Some of these rookie wide receivers have had some complimentary weeks for him as of late. I just don't trust the Titans. And if they can slow down Derrick Henry, even if they let Derrick Henry run all over the field, I still think Aaron Rodgers has the capabilities to put up more points.
Tannehill's back. They beat the Broncos 17-10 last week. No touchdown for Derrick Henry. He cost me $180 in a parlay. I would have won 100. I hit 6 legs of a parlay, and then he was my last one, and it was all I needed was a touchdown, and I didn't get it. That parlay included Lions money line and Vikings money line for the record.
Wow.
So I'm not happy with the Titans, but I'm gonna jump back on. I think the Titans are going to cover. I'm not sure about the win. I don't. It seems like a 3-point game either way. I'm going to lean Titans, cover the 3.5. But I'm also terrified that the Packers figured something out and are going to just go on this crazy win streak and put everybody to shame. And then we'll just watch them lose in the playoffs, which I'm okay with that as well. But I'd rather them not make the playoffs. I don't want to see them happy. I don't want to see Packers fans happy. I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers happy, if that's even possible. I think he hates his life so much. I don't know if that's ever possible. But Sunday Night Football. Got the Chiefs at the Chargers. Chargers +7. Ryan is taking the Chargers. Kyle is taking the Chargers. Micah is taking the Chiefs. What are you going to do, John?
I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. Chargers are a little banged up on the wide receiving core right now. I don't know that that's going to change this weekend yet. It sounds like Keenan Allen's still out. Mike Williams is out. I just look for Mahomes to have a big game, divisional game. I know it's on the road.
If that's even on the road. It's like,
right, next door. So
Well, it's like they don't really have a good home crowd, basically.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, give me the Chiefs. I
Chiefs?
think they cover that.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think it's too many points. Home underdog. I like taking that, so I'm going to go Chargers. Next, we got the Cowboys at the Vikings. Vikings, a 1-point home underdog. Very surprising to me.
Let's test
Wasn't
your
surprising for Kyle.
Yeah,
Kyle
let's-
took the Cowboys.
Let's test your theory here on home underdogs.
Micah took the Vikings. Ryan took the Vikings. I'm going to take the Vikings. Home underdog. I think they're the better team. I don't think the Cowboys are good. I think the matchup actually is really good for the Vikings. And Kirk Cousins, 1 o'clock game, never fails. So what are you going to do?
Well, that was what I looked at when this one was on the schedule. It's like, okay, I see Thursday night, Sunday night. Do the Vikings host the Cowboys at like 4 o'clock or something?
I think it's a 4:30. Yeah.
Oh,
actually,
is it?
Now that I think about it, I
Uh-oh.
meant to pull
Well,
that.
do I got to scratch that off then? Shoot.
Let me just confirm this.
I actually
I'm pretty
wrote-
sure it's 4:30.
I wrote down the Vikings.
Yeah, it's 4:25.
All right. Well, this gives Kyle a chance to make up one on the field. I'm going to go Vikings as well. I think between Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, still a good running game, and
Yeah.
the recent addition of an ex-Lion, T.J. Hawkinson.
T.J. Hawkinson, yeah.
I think the Vikings are going to separate from the rest of that division.
I wonder how he did against the Cowboys when we played him. I'm gonna pull that up, but no,
Good.
I don't need to pull that up. Nobody cares. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Nobody cares how he did again. We're done with you, TJ.
Old news.
We're done. We're done with you. Moving on to the Lions game, we got the Lions at the Giants. Giants -3. Kyle's taking the Lions. Micah's taking the Giants. Ryan is taking the Lions. I'm taking the Lions. What are you doing, John?
We're all going to make up a game on Micah. I'm going to go with the Lions as well.
Lions gonna win?
Yeah,
I think so too.
I think so.
I hope so. I really, really do.
Like you said, I think it's an exposure day for the New York Giants and a chance
Yeah.
for Dan Campbell. Back-to-back road games, that'd be huge.
That is massive. 10:30 game. You got Utah at Oregon. Oregon 1.5-point favorite. Kyle's taking Oregon. Micah's taking Oregon. Ryan's taking Oregon. What are you gonna do, John?
That 1.5 scares me.
Yeah, I know.
It's-
It seems
it's-
like it should be more, right?
Yeah, so gut instinct told me to take Utah here. I'm going to take Utah on the road. Oregon is a tough place to play. It's
Yeah.
a night game, though, and I think Utah is always kind of scary at nights in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be something with their uniforms or if they're all going to wear the tinted visor or something, but my gut told me Utah, and that was when you first sent this out.
My gut told me Utah. I wrote down Utah. I scratched out Utah, and I wrote Oregon. Something doesn't smell right about this. I should be taking Utah.
Oregon lost last weekend, right?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if, like, people are sitting out. Like, you know, like Oregon kind of has that.
Oh, 2 losses now, right?
But home Bo Nix is a different Bo Nix. He's
Yeah.
good at home. I'm going to stick with Oregon. I don't know. I don't really like that pick, but I'm just going to stick with it. Next, you got USC at UCLA. UCLA plus 1.5. Kyle's taking UCLA. Mike is taking USC. Ryan is taking USC. What are you going to do, John?
I'm going to test your theory here. Home underdogs.
It's more of an NFL thing, but
Oh,
it still kind of makes sense in this.
I still feel like 1.5 is a weird number. These are some tough games you're picking this week, but I'm gonna go UCLA in hopes that it really stirs up the Pac-12 so
Yeah.
that Michigan's got an easier chance on getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, I hear you there.
If they play a tight game
I'm
against Ohio
going
State.
UCLA. I think their running game is legit,
Yeah,
and I don't think USC is good enough. I really don't. I think they've looked bad too often. So I'm going to stick with my UCLA pick, and that's probably a little hope as well, because
Yeah.
I want to see some more chaos on top of the standings.
I'm just
And-
trying to make up ground on Micah. You know,
Oh, right.
it's one of those weeks. I shouldn't be doing this because I've had a couple good weeks in a row and I've really turned the season around. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to make one up on you, Micah.
we got Nooner. You got Illinois at Michigan. Michigan 18-point favorite. Kyle's taking Michigan. Mike is taking Michigan. Ryan is taking Michigan. What are you going to do here, John?
All right, I thought very long and hard about this one. I really thought about throwing some money on Illinois. Not that I think it's a trap game for Michigan and that they're going to make it particularly close, But maybe Michigan is kind of easing the brakes and want to make sure everybody's 100% healthy going into the Ohio State game. So maybe it's just a 14 or 15-point game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Michigan.
Oh, you switched it up on me there. I'm going to go with Illinois because both of these teams want to run the ball. Both these teams want to hold the ball. I think there's going to be a lot of long drives, and just when you start getting into, you start limiting the amount of possessions, you're a punt or two away from this game being really, really close, whether it is or not. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go with Illinois, plus 18. I think Michigan's going to win this game. I don't think it's going to be like nerve-wracking or anything, but I think it's going to just, it screams backdoor cover for Illinois, or like a late touchdown for Michigan to make it like a 17-point win. But like 18 just seems like too many.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's ever going to be in doubt, but 18 just feels like too much, especially with how much this game means to Illinois too. With the opposite side of the conference being completely wide open and really needing this win. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm just saying just be careful.
Yeah, just going to be one of those games where the scoreboard doesn't really tell you the actual game. You know, Michigan could have a 13-point lead the entire game. Yeah. And it never get any closer or further away.
Yep, that's kind of where things go. Last game, we got another noon game. Indiana at MSU. MSU minus 10.5. Kyle's taking MSU. Micah, again, says Indiana by 1 billion. Ryan's taking Indiana. What are you going to do, John?
And the last time Micah said something about 1 billion, it didn't work out for him.
I think Rutgers did cover.
Was it? No, it was 2 weeks ago. Illinois by 1 billion.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan State won that game.
Yeah, that's true.
I also picked Illinois that week, and it didn't help me at all. So I'm going to go with MSU. Why not? You know, maybe Peyton Thorne just lights them up, and they don't have to rely on that running game that's been very subpar.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's Indiana going to do with the rest of their season. So I'm going to go MSU. There's your one chance, Spartan fans. I'm not just a homer.
Yep. Both teams are bad football teams. But Indiana is a very, very, very bad football team. I said a couple weeks ago Michigan State shouldn't be favored by double digits against anybody. I'm wrong, because this game they should be favored by double digits, and I think they're going to win this game by quite a bit. I think this is gonna be a 41-10 type game in my opinion. I think MSU is going to have a really good showing and dominate this football game at home. So I'm taking MSU. And those are the picks of the week.
Drinking craft beer, having fun, and talking sports in the state of Michigan. You're listening to State of My Sports.
To remind everybody what we're drinking tonight, we are drinking from Arvon Brewing Company, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Chocolate Fountain. It is a kettle sour with raspberries, blueberries, chocolate, and lactose. Oh, and marshmallows as well. They say high notes of tart berry medley and sweet blueberries supported by the cozy sweetness of marshmallow and chocolate. 5 ABVs. Alcohol by volume. This is thick. I like the tartness, and the chocolate actually complements it extremely well. It's a very interesting beer.
It's a dessert sour.
It is very much a dessert sour. I feel like that's one that, I don't know, it's got everything you want. Like, the sour tartness is nice. It sits on your tongue nice, if that makes sense. And it has a lot of really good flavors, and I like the consistency of it, like how thick it is. That's one thing that I really like about the Arvon sours is how they're smoothie like. You know, it's like you're getting everything you want.
Yeah, you're not just getting like a
subtle taste,
or like a cider that is just like straight like juice.
Yeah, exactly.
This is more like a malt, like you said.
Yeah.
If I had to explain this to my doctor, say I drank like 5 of these a night, I would say I'm still getting my fruit, doc.
Yeah, honestly.
I know there's chocolate in there, but I'm getting my fruit because it, like you said, it's a smoothie. It seems healthy. It's smooth. It's fresh, and so many notes going on with this one. It's a solid beer.
What kind of grade would you give this one?
Man, and I'm biased because Arvon, they get me with their IPAs sometimes.
Yeah.
They get the sours out there.
We should do an Arvon trip here soon.
Yeah, man, that was a good time going down there on the bikes at one time, riding through that construction zone.
Yeah, that was something.
Hopefully nobody's listening of any importance, but I remember riding with like a Busch Latte in my hand too. I was like, oh man, I'm going right down the street, downtown Grand Rapids Division, Hartside.
She was fixing the roads, that's for sure.
Arvon's a good time.
For sure.
Man, so, for whatever reason, 8.4. 8.4 is right there, and it might be a little bit low, but it's definitely not too high of a rating.
No, I agree. I'm going to go with the 8.2. I think it's really good. It's, I don't know, like, when there's too many different flavors, it kind of lowers the score for me. It's like, if this is supposed to be a peach sour, like, boom, there it is. And, like, that's where I get my really, really high grades. When you have multiple different berries, I'm just like, all right, which one was it? You know what I mean? Which one did I like? And I don't know. That's why it's really, really good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
8.2 is a great score. Well deserved, and it's just kind of, that's where it goes with me with the sours. It's like,
it's flirting with that line.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much going on or not enough going on.
Exactly.
If I read the description, I'm thinking, oh man, which one do I got to focus on as I take the drink, as opposed to just forget everything that it says, give it a fair chance. That's where I went, and a heck of a beer. And like you said, when you sent out the show sheet, it's like, ooh, chocolate. Ooh, that's gonna be a stout.
Yeah,
ooh, I'm
right.
not gonna have. And I didn't read everything. I saw Arvon, I saw chocolate fountain, and I was like, whatever. But yeah, a lot going on with it. Very tardy, but
it's good.
I'd rather have that than something too dark.
And it's like a perfect amount of like one is, or even splitting one was a good amount. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't have multiples of that.
No.
In my opinion, it's like, it's perfect for a little change up, if you will. Definitely not one that you just pound, and keep on keeping on, But Carrie was drinking Karen, which was a seltzer, right? It was she called it Mom Water.
Yeah, Mom Water is the brand, I believe.
The picture is gone, for the record. I don't know where it went. It just says for clarity now, so I don't have the picture anymore. But she gave it an 8.2, so it's Mom Water. What flavor was that? Do you remember?
It was Karen.
Lemon
blueberry.
Yeah, that's right. So, thank you, Carrie, for listening and giving us your grade. But that was episode 181. We're going to be at 200 before we know it. Thanks for being here tonight, John. Long night, long day at work. Appreciate you taking some time out.
Oh, not a problem.
Always appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to State of My Sports. From the Red Wings to the Lions, to the Tigers to the Pistons, to Michigan and Michigan State, and everything in between, we're talking about it. And don't forget the beer. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. In the meantime, hook up with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at State of My Sports with an MI. We'll see you next time.